Have you ever wondered if the deepest wounds of your existence were not signs of defeat, but proof that you survived life's cruelest challenge? Imagine for a moment that every frustration, every betrayal, every night of despair you endured was not simply random suffering, but evidence that something within you refused to collapse. We are quick to measure victory by applause, recognition, or visible success. But what if the true sign that your soul has triumphed is the very fact that you are still here, breathing, reflecting, and searching for meaning? Think about it. How many times have you looked at others and assumed they were winning at life, while privately you felt like you were merely enduring? Perhaps you have seen friends advancing in careers, forming families, building the kind of stability you longed for. And yet, beneath those appearances, they too may carry invisible scars. The difference is that your scars have forced you to confront the harshest truths of existence. They have stripped away illusions, and in that stripping, something essential was revealed about you. Niccolò Machiavelli, often portrayed as a ruthless strategist, once observed that adversity is the true measure of strength. While many seek comfort and easy victories, only those who face cruelty without surrender can claim genuine triumph. In this sense, the cruelest challenge of life is not poverty, rejection, or loss. It is the temptation to give in to despair, to become numb, to allow bitterness to consume you. If you resisted that temptation, even imperfectly, your soul has already conquered more than you realize. So let me ask you, what if the very moments you once labeled as failures were in fact proof of your victory? What if the long nights you endured in silence, the betrayals you survived, and the disappointments that did not destroy you are the clearest evidence that you are stronger than the cruelty of life itself? This is not about ignoring your pain, it is about reinterpreting it. Tonight, I invite you to see your journey differently, not as a story of lack, but as testimony that your inner core remained unbroken. If this resonates with you, share in the comments what battles you have endured that, looking back, were not your downfall but your quiet proof of victory. And if you feel this reflection speaks to your soul, do not forget to like this video and subscribe, because we are about to uncover 9 powerful signs that your soul has already won its fiercest battle. What if life was never meant to be measured by external victories at all? What if the secret of true triumph is not about conquering the world, but about not letting the world conquer you? Imagine a different story for yourself, not one where success is defined by money, status, or recognition, but where the very fact that you refuse to be broken becomes the ultimate symbol of achievement. Picture this: a battlefield where everyone carries invisible wounds. Some collapse under the weight of despair. Others disguise their pain with masks of happiness. And then there are those who, despite their suffering, remain standing. You are among the latter. Maybe you never gave yourself credit for this. Maybe you thought endurance was a sign of weakness, of being stuck. But imagine how your perspective would change if you realized that endurance is actually the rarest and most profound form of victory. Think of the times you wanted to give up but didn't. Think of the mornings you forced yourself to rise from bed even when your soul was heavy. These moments might have seemed ordinary, even meaningless. Yet in truth, they are sacred. They reveal that you possess a resilience that many never discover. And now, imagine how your life would look if you started to honor these quiet victories, instead of dismissing them as just surviving. Niccolò Machiavelli, often accused of cynicism, actually recognized something profound. The world is cruel, power is unpredictable, and human beings are fragile. Yet within this harsh reality, he saw the possibility of greatness, not in illusions of control, but in the strength to navigate chaos without collapsing. What if you adopted this same vision for your own life? Now ask yourself, how different would you feel if you saw every scar, every loss, every disappointment, not as evidence of defeat, but as proof that you are still in the fight? Imagine looking at your own story with pride, as if your soul was whispering, "You have already endured the worst, and yet here you are." This is the perspective I want you to hold as we continue. Because once you start imagining yourself not as a victim of existence but as a quiet conqueror of it, the way you carry your burdens, and even your joys, will never be the same. We live in a culture that tells us victory is loud. It is the promotion at work, the new car, the picture-perfect family displayed on social media. We are conditioned to believe that if the world cannot see our triumph, then perhaps it never happened. But here is the disruptive truth. The greatest victories of the human soul are invisible, and they often go unnoticed even by the one who achieved them. Think about this carefully. Isn't it strange that we call someone successful because they accumulated wealth, while we overlook the single mother who endures loneliness without collapsing into despair? We celebrate the one who shines on the stage, but we ignore the man who, despite rejection, still chooses to treat others with kindness instead of bitterness. Why do we so easily dismiss the victories that require inner strength but offer no applause? The reason is simple. Visible victories flatter the ego, but invisible victories transform the soul. And here lies the paradox. Society will rarely honor the quiet strength of your endurance, but in the economy of existence, that endurance is worth infinitely more than recognition. You may never receive a medal for surviving nights of silence, for facing betrayal without letting it poison your heart, or for continuing to believe in goodness when cynicism would have been easier. Yet those are the very battles that define the essence of who you are. Niccolo Machiavelli, in his cold realism, understood that human life is often brutal, unfair, and indifferent. He stripped away illusions, insisting that the world is not governed by fairness but by power and circumstance. This sounds cruel, and it is. But here is the hidden gift. If you can see life without illusions and still choose not to give up, then your victory is greater than those who live in denial. So let us break this normality once and for all. Triumph is not about conquering others, it is about not allowing cruelty, betrayal, and despair to conquer you. If you are still capable of love, of trust, of trying again, even after life has shown you its merciless side, then you have already won the battle that matters most. And maybe, just maybe, your greatest proof of victory is the simple fact that you are listening to these words right now, because it means you are still searching, still alive, still unwilling to let the darkness have the final word. When Niccolo Machiavelli wrote The Prince, many accused him of being ruthless, even soulless. Yet beneath the surface of his harsh realism, there is a profound lesson about human survival. He was not glorifying cruelty. He was revealing that life itself can be merciless, and that only those who learn to endure its storms without collapsing can navigate it with wisdom. Machiavelli's message, though often misunderstood, validates the truth we are uncovering here. Your ability to withstand the cruelty of existence is not a sign of weakness, but of mastery. Philosophy has echoed this same principle across centuries. Consider the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, for example, who wrote in his Meditations that life's trials are not obstacles but raw material for the soul to shape itself. For him, resilience was not simply enduring suffering but transforming it into strength of character. Between Machiavelli's realism and the Stoic vision, we find a powerful convergence. The measure of a human being is not comfort or applause, but the strength to remain upright when everything else falls apart. Even literature reflects this truth. Think of Dostoevsky's characters, who face inner torment and external cruelty yet reveal the nobility of enduring with dignity. In The Brothers Karamazov, suffering is not glorified, but it becomes the crucible where authentic humanity emerges. You may never have thought of your own struggles in such grand terms, but this lineage of thought, from Machiavelli to the Stoics to the great novelists, places your silent endurance within a tradition of genuine greatness. Psychology, too, reinforces this perspective. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the concentration camps, insisted that meaning is discovered not in pleasure or success, but in how we confront unavoidable suffering. He taught that while we cannot always choose our circumstances, we can always choose our stance toward them. To endure without surrender is already to claim victory. So when you feel invisible in your struggle, remember this. History, philosophy, and psychology all recognize that the greatest triumphs of the soul are hidden. The world may never applaud you for resisting despair, but thinkers across time would honor you for it. You are not merely surviving. You are embodying one of the oldest and most profound definitions of victory humanity has ever known. Your scars are not evidence of failure. They are your credentials. They place you in the company of those who understood that true greatness is quiet, invisible, and indestructible. There is a silent battlefield that most people never talk about. It does not exist in boardrooms, stages, or social media feeds. It is the battlefield inside the human heart. On this battlefield, the enemy is not another person but despair itself, whispering that nothing will ever change, that your efforts are meaningless, that surrender would be easier. And here is the truth. This battle is far more universal than we admit. Everyone faces it, yet most conceal it behind masks of composure. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to believe that others are doing better than you? That they have found stability, happiness, or meaning while you are still struggling? What you rarely see are the invisible negotiations they endure, the doubts before sleep, the quiet arguments with themselves, the temptations to give up. We imagine that resilience looks heroic, but more often it looks like an ordinary person dragging themselves forward, even when the weight feels unbearable. One of the invisible dynamics of existence is that pain isolates us. It convinces us that we are alone in our suffering. But in reality, this illusion of isolation hides the most universal experience of humanity, the struggle to endure. By exposing this, we break the lie that your quiet survival is insignificant. On the contrary, it is the very thing that connects you most deeply with the human condition. Another hidden truth is that endurance reshapes the soul in ways comfort never could. Ease makes us soft. Adversity carves depth. While comfort teaches us little about who we are, hardship forces us to confront our true strength. Yet because this transformation is invisible, we often dismiss it. We overlook the nights we did not collapse, the temptations we resisted, the times we chose integrity when bitterness was easier. These victories leave no trophy, but they shape the essence of our character. Machiavelli understood this in political life, where unseen forces determine the rise or fall of nations. The same applies to our inner lives. It is not the visible battles that define us, but the unseen choices, the private wars no one else will ever witness. And perhaps that is why endurance feels so lonely, because it is sacred. So let me ask you directly, how many invisible victories have you already dismissed? How many quiet battles did you win without realizing that in those moments, your soul was proving its strength? Perhaps it is time to honor what has always been hidden in plain sight. There are moments when words must cut through the noise like a blade. Let me give you phrases worth carrying, not as decoration, but as anchors when life's storms threaten to drown you. Endurance is not weakness. Endurance is proof. Silence in suffering does not mean defeat. It means your soul is still standing. What breaks others has already tested you, and you are still here. The cruelest challenge of existence is not pain, but despair. And if despair has not conquered you, then you have already won. Your scars are not signs of failure. They are evidence of survival. The world applauds visible victories, but the victories that matter most are invisible. To endure without becoming bitter is greater than to conquer without resistance. Each of these statements carries a truth that reshapes how we interpret our lives. Too often we measure ourselves by standards borrowed from others, titles, possessions, appearances. But the essence of victory cannot be bought or displayed. It can only be lived. And the simplest sign of it is the fact that your inner flame was not extinguished by cruelty. Think about it. How many people let bitterness define them after betrayal? How many collapse into cynicism after disappointment? How many stop trying after failure? Yet you, despite everything, are still seeking meaning. That single fact is monumental. It means that despair has not won. Let one of these statements stay with you as a mantra. Choose the one that resonates most deeply and repeat it when the voice of discouragement grows loud. Philosophy is not abstract when it enters your bloodstream as conviction. Machiavelli's realism, the Stoics' wisdom, and even the struggles of countless unseen lives converge in these truths. They are not theories. They are weapons for the soul. Never forget, the cruelest challenge of existence is not what happens to you. It is whether you allow what happens to break your will to continue. If you are still searching, still yearning, still listening, then you have already endured more than most will ever admit. Carry this with pride. The invisible victories of your soul are greater than any applause the world could ever give. Life often hides its deepest truths in paradoxes. The first paradox is this: the very pain you thought was destroying you was also shaping you. Cruelty, betrayal, and loss feel like enemies, yet they become the teachers that reveal your true strength. Without them, resilience would remain an untested word. With them, it becomes part of your flesh and spirit. Here is another paradox. Survival looks ordinary from the outside but is extraordinary on the inside. To others, it may appear that you are simply going through life, but only you know the invisible battles you endured. What looks like routine is, in fact, silent heroism. Machiavelli himself embodied a paradox. His name has become synonymous with manipulation and ruthlessness, yet his writings were born from his own exile, rejection, and humiliation. Stripped of political power, he endured disgrace, yet it was precisely in that season of personal defeat that he produced ideas that would echo for centuries. Outwardly, he looked ruined. Inwardly, his endurance became his legacy. The human soul thrives in paradox. To be broken and yet unbroken. To weep and yet continue. To feel abandoned and yet to choose love again. These are not contradictions. They are the strange logic of survival. They reveal that the soul's victories are never straightforward, but woven into complexity. Another duality worth confronting is this. Bitterness feels like strength, but it weakens you. Forgiveness feels like weakness, yet it fortifies you. How strange that the world rewards aggression and cynicism, while the greatest power often lies in quiet mercy. If cruelty did not harden your heart completely, then your endurance is more than survival. It is triumph with integrity. And here lies perhaps the most important paradox of all. True victory is not about avoiding suffering, but about enduring it without losing your humanity. Many survive by becoming harder, colder, less open to life. But if you survived and still care, still love, still dream, then your victory is greater than theirs. Reflect on this. What if the very tension you feel between your wounds and your hope is not a flaw, but the clearest proof that your soul has not been conquered? In this paradox, your fragility and your strength coexist, and together, they testify that you have already won more than you realize. If you accept this new way of seeing your life, not as a string of failures, but as a series of invisible victories, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to reclaim your dignity. You stop apologizing for your scars and begin to wear them as signs of strength. The shame that once accompanied your struggles transforms into quiet pride, because you finally understand that survival itself is no small thing. It is sacred. The reward of this perspective is not wealth, nor applause, nor sudden happiness. It is something deeper and far more enduring: inner peace. When you recognize that you have already endured life's cruelest tests, you no longer measure yourself by others' illusions of success. You stop comparing your hidden battles with their public victories. Instead, you begin to see that your scars carry more weight than their trophies, because yours were earned in silence and darkness, where no one else could see. This recognition grants freedom. Freedom from envy, from self-doubt, from the endless race to prove yourself. You begin to walk differently, with a quiet authority that comes not from pride but from survival. It is the authority of someone who has been tested and found unbreakable. No one can take that away from you. And here is the practical promise. Once you start seeing your endurance as victory, you unlock new energy for the future. The weight of failure lifts, because you no longer interpret your past as defeat. The future, then, is not a continuation of shame but an open field where you can build with the strength already proven within you. Machiavelli knew that those who endure exile, betrayal, and rejection often emerge wiser, harder to deceive, and more capable of navigating life's complexities. The same is true for you. Your soul has already been tempered in fire, and the reward is a resilience no comfort could ever teach. So what is promised to you? A new way of inhabiting your own life. A dignity that cannot be stolen. A peace that does not depend on circumstances. And perhaps most of all, the deep realization that you are no longer defined by what tried to break you. You are defined by the fact that it failed. That is the victory you already carry, waiting to be claimed as your reward. To make sense of these invisible victories, we need a framework, a lens through which to see the cruelest challenge of existence and the proof of your triumph. Let us weave together three strands: philosophy, psychology, and lived human experience. From philosophy, we inherit realism. Machiavelli stripped away illusions and forced us to see the world as it is: unpredictable, often unfair, and full of forces beyond our control. His lesson was not despair but preparation, the recognition that strength is born in how we respond to cruelty. The Stoics echoed this, teaching that while we cannot control events, we can control our stance toward them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Through adversity, the soul discovers itself. From psychology, we inherit the science of resilience. Viktor Frankl's logotherapy revealed that meaning can be drawn even from suffering, and that those who find purpose in pain emerge stronger than those who do not. Modern research on post-traumatic growth confirms this. Hardship can deepen gratitude, sharpen perspective, and foster inner strength. Endurance does not merely leave scars. It rewires the very way we perceive ourselves and the world. From lived experience, we inherit the universality of struggle. No one escapes the battle against despair, yet not everyone emerges with their humanity intact. Here lies the essence of victory. Not simply surviving, but surviving without surrendering to bitterness. Thinkers across time recognize this as the true measure of greatness. Literature captures it in Dostoevsky's characters, who wrestle with despair, yet reveal dignity through their endurance. History demonstrates it in those who, despite exile or loss, left legacies of wisdom. This framework clarifies the 9 proofs of triumph. They are not abstract virtues, but concrete signs that you have resisted life's cruelest temptation. The temptation to give up on meaning, to still be capable of trust after betrayal, of hope after disappointment, of compassion after rejection. These are the markers of a soul that has already overcome. So when you doubt yourself, return to this triad. Machiavelli's realism reminds you the world is cruel. Stoic philosophy reminds you that adversity can shape virtue. Psychology reminds you that resilience transforms pain into strength. And your own life reminds you that you have already lived these truths, whether you realized it or not. This is the foundation. On it rests the proof that your soul has endured, and in enduring, has won. Now that you have walked through these 9 proofs, let us return to the beginning. You once thought survival meant you were behind, that endurance was evidence of weakness, that scars were marks of failure. But now you know better. You know that survival itself is proof of triumph, that endurance is a hidden crown, and that your scars are sacred credentials. So let me ask you, what has life thrown at you that should have broken you, but didn't? What was the cruelest challenge you faced, the one that left you thinking you would not recover, yet here you are? Share it in the comments below. Not as confession, but as testimony. Because when you share your scars, you remind others that they are not alone, and that survival is itself a victory. Do not keep your endurance hidden any longer. Let it speak. Let it inspire. You have carried silent battles in the dark. Now bring them into the light so they can become part of a greater story. The story of how the human soul refuses to bow to despair. Remember, Machiavelli's realism showed us that the world is often cruel, but your very existence proves that cruelty has not conquered you. The Stoics taught us that obstacles become the way, and your scars are evidence of this transformation. Psychology confirms that resilience is the seed of growth, and your endurance proves that the seed is alive within you. So take pride in your survival. Honor your endurance. Wear your scars as living proof that you have already faced and overcome the hardest battle life offers, the battle against despair. And if this message resonated with you, do not leave in silence. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, add your voice to the community we are building here. Each comment, each story, becomes another spark of light in a world that too often feels dark. You are not alone in this journey. We walk together as survivors, as silent conquerors, as souls who endured the cruelest challenge and discovered that the very act of standing still is already a victory. This is your proof. This is your strength. And this is the story your life is already telling, whether the world applauds it or not, or